Hello people, today I'm going to be doing two reviews of Nosferatu and The Complete Unknown. I got a chance to check out Nosferatu on Christmas Eve. I went to the 10:30 showing with some friends, and that was actually the latest I think I've ever been to a movie ever. Like I am kind of a night owl, but I usually am not a night owl out places. So being at the movie theater, not getting out until like 1 in the morning, was a very surreal experience, but at the same time felt like Nosferatu was like kind of like the perfect movie for that. Anyway, let's talk about the movies. I also want to say I got an anamorphic lens for Christmas for my filmmaking stuff, but I'm using it right now, so I hope it looks good. If I'm out of focus, I'm sorry. The whole thing is it's only manual focus, and I can't really check because if I move to see the screen better, I'm blurry. So based off my eyesight from here to the screen, it looks like I'm in focus, so I apologize if I am not. Nosferatu. I am a fan of Robert Eggers. I really like The Witch. The Lighthouse is a good movie, not necessarily for me, but good. The Northman I really enjoyed, and this movie I had no idea what to expect. I knew this was, an adaptation of Nosferatu, which is an adaptation of Dracula, but I didn't know how much it was like Dracula. I didn't know if it was just, taking the character and doing something different. I didn't know if it was literally the same exact thing, just titled differently. And now that I've seen Robert Eggers' film, I realized about 20 minutes in, oh, it's just Dracula, the same story and everything. And that's where I started to get a little disappointed at the beginning of the film, to be completely honest, because I was excited to see, a tale from Robert Eggers, because, he's done such interesting works like The Witch, or, these newer stories that we haven't seen before. I don't know if The Witch or The Lighthouse or Northman are all like books. As far as I know, that was my first time being introduced to that. So this is the first time I've seen in one of his movies where I was very familiar with the story, but yet it's out of all his films, it's the one that people are going to be most familiar with going in. So that's kind of where my issue lies with this movie. I don't think this is a bad movie by any standard. I think this is a really good movie. It's fantastically made. Like everything that you expect out of Robert Eggers' production it's here. Fantastic cinematography, fantastic production design, costumes, phenomenal performances from across the board. Lily Rose Depp, Bill Skarsgård, Willem Dafoe. I know people have been complaining about Aaron Taylor Johnson in the film. I think he was pretty good. So I think the power was there, but I just didn't know by the time the movie was over. I just kind of sat back and went, was this necessary? Did we have to do this again? Because the very first time I watched any real Dracula movie was Francis Ford Coppola's film, which I actually saw for the very first time at the beginning of this year. So I was very fresh off that. I know the beginning of this year sounds a long time ago, but mentally it feels like I just watched it. And so I know that movie is 1990, but as a story that's that old, by the time I'm watching Nosferatu, I know it's nearly approaching 30 years later for this movie, but there just wasn't enough in this movie to make me go, okay, I get it. I know this is why we had to tell this story again. Besides, there's, the idea of, Robert Eggers doing a Dracula Nosferatu movie sounds really cool, right? He would get the vibe perfectly, right? And the answer is absolutely, he would. But the whole issue is that I still didn't get anything more from it besides cool vibes, because I still think it's a great movie. It's great as a retelling, but I just don't know if I felt like it was necessary, because usually when you do retellings, by the time you watch them, it felt like, okay, it was necessary because of that. It was necessary because of this. And while Robert Eggers does a auteur-like job with his direction, production design, and all of that, it didn't necessarily feel like Coppola's film was dated. It's definitely 1990s, but there's nothing in there that doesn't hold up to me. But at the same time, there's nothing in that movie that makes me go, ugh, I'm not so sure about that at all. So that's where I feel like maybe I struggle with Nosferatu, because I just don't think even if it was Robert Eggers, if I was a studio executive trying to preserve legacy of cinema, wouldn't necessarily greenlit this movie and thought maybe it was a little too early, maybe another 10 years or so. That's just my personal opinion. But that's also my fundamental, yin and yang with this movie, because it is excellently made. Everything that you expect to be well done in this movie from Robert Eggers and everybody behind it is done. In that terms, the movie's perfect. It's a great story. It's just, we've seen it before. At the end of the day, it went by fast. It's 2 hours and 13 minutes, I believe, and it flew by. The scares are pretty solid. The opening, by the way, one of my favorite opening scenes of the entire year is in this thing. When the opening happened, I was like, yes, bring it on. Yes, I'm so excited. And then after 20 minutes, I was like, oh, it's the same thing. So, yeah, but the opening to this is phenomenal. Bill Skarsgård, unrecognizable. Lily Rose Depp, fantastic. Everybody just did a fantastic job, and there's no getting around that. And hopefully, in 10 to 20 years, I can go back and watch this movie and be like, I was so stupid then, because there's more distance between me and the other adaptations that I've seen. But as for right now, I still find myself kind of like, okay, yeah, it was good, but like, I just watched it. So that's how I feel right now. And I know that's a personal issue, but it's still my actual experience with the film. So I'm going to give Nosferatu an 8.1 out of 10. And then just now, I just got back from seeing A Complete Unknown. This is also the Christmas movie of the year for adults, I guess. That's not, Mufasa or Sonic 3, which I haven't seen either one of those. A James Mangold film. The last one that I saw of his was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. While I didn't love that movie, I thought, it was solid, but not necessarily, oh yeah, James Mangold living up to his name. This movie doesn't necessarily feel like James Mangold is like, yeah, back on track to like what I loved with his work with Logan or Ford v Ferrari, but it felt like, he's still kind of breathing. Because while I think this movie is pretty good, I think Timothy Chalamet definitely deserves his Oscar nomination that he's going to undoubtedly get for this. Just couldn't feel, but yet this movie felt a little formulaic. It definitely hits those beats that you expect it to. It doesn't bore you because you're always kind of like enchanted by Chalamet's fantastic performance. And, Edward Norton's also in this movie. He's fantastic. I don't know who plays Johnny Cash in this movie, but he's really, really good. I saw one tweet just now that's saying Johnny Cash in The Complete Unknown is like Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer, and it gives off similar vibes. And in complete honesty, it does. It's funny how that perfectly described how you feel when you watch Johnny Cash in this movie. It's like Einstein showing up just randomly there. Where this movie kind of just gets a lot of its runtime from is a lot of singing. There is a lot of singing in this movie. If you like Bob Dylan and you love his music, you're gonna have such a great time with this movie, because from when the movie begins to the time it ends, he's just always singing. So if you love his music, you're going to love this. To me, it was just like, okay, what's the plot, and then it just kind of was that standard type of, this is how he became famous, and this is how he got here, and this is how he got there, and then people were mad at him, and okay, now movie over because he did heartfelt stuff, it kind of hit those beats where you're kind of like, I know, okay, I get it, but at the same time, there are redeeming qualities to this movie. I think Chalamet's performance being the biggest one, but also at the same time, I thought the themes to this one are quite layered, more than just general audience type of thematics, and I think where that mostly comes in is the ideologies that Bob Dylan has as an artist, confining to what the standard is, confining to what type of art does he want to make versus what he's being told to make. Is he happy if he's just singing, or does he have to be doing it his way? Is his opinion of music the right way when everybody else seems to disagree? Those type of questions that you have as an artist, and how much weight does your opinion as of an artist have over others who just consume? And that is, really good questions that I feel like I was able to latch onto with this movie. But at the same time, we hit the standard kind of cliche beats that we are used to getting, to the point where it couldn't necessarily like redeem it from being, the score that I gave it. At the end of the day, I thought the movie was a little too long. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of singing, relentless singing, and I know it's there for the fans, but it was just, I'm someone who loved Joker Folie à Deux. And I'm telling you, I think there's a little too much singing in A Complete Unknown, which I know might sound nuts. Punch me in the face if you want to. But it's just my approach to it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think this movie would have been like a solid 9 out of 10 if it were like 40 minutes shorter, 35 minutes shorter. I think it's 2 hours 20. I think it would have been a great hour 45. I think there's a way to make this an hour 45, hone in on the themes that are a little bit more original. Try to not do the telling a life type of thing. I heard one critic say this, and I've agreed since, that these biopics really shouldn't be trying to describe their career or, a big chunk of any person's life, but they would rather should revolve around more than just a small little segment and not be jumping around. And that's something that I agree with, and I think more musical biopics should try to do, is just try to give a snippet rather than a summary. When you get a snippet and look into the little details, I feel like you can read a person a little bit more than just reading, their Wikipedia page. And that's where I feel like, Timothy Chalamet is great in the movie, but did I learn a lot about Bob Dylan watching this? Not really. I mean, I say feel like I say this a lot about a lot of biopics. I didn't really learn that much that I didn't learn in the trailer. That he has a great voice. He's a little quirky, and I know the movie kind of like pans it out to be like, oh, you're a mystery man. It's even said throughout the movie, you're a mystery. I don't really feel like I know you. But then at the same time, if that's the case, like I said, I feel like that should just argue even more. You need to do more of a snippet of his life rather than trying to do a summary. And I know this doesn't go over his entire career, but it really goes over the first whole chunk of it, his rise to fame. It doesn't go on to later. I don't know much about him anyway, so if his life went to crap afterwards, I don't know. If it got better afterwards, I don't know. I mean, there's title cards at the end because of course there is. And it mentions all the good, so I'm assuming it all went well after. But you understand my point. And I'm gonna give The Complete Unknown a 7.5 out of 10. A solid and enjoyable film that gets the job done. Chalamet's fantastic. The themes are strong. It just hits those cliche beats that you'd expect to hit, but it's not boring. It's not entertaining. It could have definitely fallen into those traps, but thankfully it didn't. Wow, that's the last review I'm doing for 2024. Yay. I have been catching up on a lot of movies that I missed. I watched Conclave, Rebel Ridge, these two movies, other things that I would want to save to my best of the year video. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying I'm getting to. I'm trying to get to the best movies of the year, but there's still a few I haven't watched that I really want to get to before I even do my top 10 of the year list. The biggest one being The Brutalist. It's really hard to find a way to watch that movie that's legal. This is the way I'll put it. So that's where I am just kind of like, crap. I want to do my best movies of the year list, but it's not showing in any theaters. It's not showing in any theater near me for a good minute. So I'm trying my best not to commit a crime. Just kidding. But yeah. So I will get my top 10 of the year list ready, and The Brutalist might not even make it. I've been going through a lot of movies the last few weeks, and the last few days, and in all honesty, only one movie's been actually added to my top 10 of the year, and I've watched like 5 or 6 movies that I thought could possibly make it. So I'm not gonna push it forward just because I just watched this and I'm getting ready for my top 10 of the year because now I need to revamp it. I want to keep my list, my opinions exactly the way that they are, and I'm not gonna cater to one movie just because I'm watching it for this video. So yeah, so that's why it might take a minute. I am going to do an anticipated of 2025 list because that's something I can do right now versus, watching a 3.5 hour movie. So yeah, comment down below what you guys thought of The Complete Unknown and Nosferatu, two movies that I don't think I loved as much as other people, but still they range from solid to pretty good. So they range from from pretty good to great. So I'm not either way. I'm not upset with either movie. So yeah, anyways, comment down below what you guys thought, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.